Ho 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 ho. My wife is always tired during intimacy, and her stretch marks are everywhere. After having kids, she became darker. I don't feel alive with her anymore. It's like I'm stuck in this marriage. I even sent you pictures of her sleeping, just to show you what I'm dealing with. It's hard living with someone who is checked out.
This was the conversation between Christabel's husband and his lover. Now, let me take you on a journey through Christabel's story. A woman who found herself in a marriage was slowly killing her spirit. Let's dive in. It was supposed to be just another normal day, she said. Christabel, a loving wife and mother, had her usual morning routine. The kids were getting ready for school. Her husband was busy with his phone. She was preparing breakfast in the kitchen. Like most mornings, she had 100 little things to juggle, such as getting her daughter's shoes on, making sure her son had his lunch packed, and making sure the house was in order before she could sit down for a moment to herself. But this particular morning, something felt off. She couldn't place it. There was this odd, uncomfortable feeling gnawing at her. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was something she hadn't noticed before. A change in her husband. Something she couldn't quite put her finger on. And so, Christabel did something she'd never done before. She asked her husband if she could borrow his phone. She needed to hotspot her laptop to finish a little work. He handed it to her without much thought. Too distracted by whatever was keeping him busy on his own device. No big deal. Just another day. But as Christabel sat there, her eyes drifting over the phone, something deep inside her told her to look through his WhatsApp. She wasn't the type to snoop. She wasn't the type to go through his personal things. But that nagging feeling wouldn't go away. She tried to ignore it at first, but then it grew stronger. What could it hurt? She thought. It's just WhatsApp. It's probably nothing. And so, she opened his chat list, expecting to see nothing more than work-related messages, or maybe some conversation with friends. But that's when it hit her. There was a contact saved under the name Rogers Network. It was a woman. At first, she thought it was just someone from his work, maybe a client he was dealing with. But as she opened the conversation, she froze. Her heart stopped. What she saw in those messages made her stomach twist in knots. This woman knew everything about Christabel. The messages weren't just casual chit-chat. They were deeply personal. They were about her. Christabel's husband, the man she had loved for years, had shared intimate details about her life, about their marriage, and about her body with this woman. He talked about her in a way that made her feel less than human. He told this woman about Christabel's mood swings. He joked about how she got tired during sex. He called her lazy, and said she moved like a tired horse. He even mocked her stretch marks, saying they made him lose focus. As Christabel read, each message felt like a punch to the gut. But that wasn't even the worst part. He had taken photos of Christabel while she slept. She was lying there, vulnerable, unaware, with her mouth open. He had taken pictures of her in her most unguarded private moments and sent them to this woman with a caption that still made Christabel's blood run cold. He wrote, "Please pity me. See what I'm living with." Christabel felt the world crash down around her. All those little moments she had worked so hard for, the love she had tried to build in their marriage, were being torn apart right in front of her eyes. She kept reading. He told this woman that he only married Christabel for their children. He even said that his mother liked her. That was why he married her, he said. He mentioned how Christabel had gotten darker after pregnancy and was now just a shadow of the woman he had married. "She's making me feel less alive," he said. Every word he wrote made Christabel feel smaller and smaller, like she was nothing but a shadow in his life. And as if that wasn't enough, this woman, this Rogers Network, laughed. She called Christabel a village wife. She asked him if Christabel ever cooked for him in lingerie. She even joked that Christabel probably smelled like onions. And he laughed. He laughed at his wife, the woman he had promised to love and cherish. He mocked her behind her back with another woman. By the time Christabel finished reading those messages, she was frozen. Her body felt like it was made of stone. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She had just read things she could never unread. And the worst part was, it wasn't even a mistake. He didn't deny it. He didn't try to apologize or explain himself. When she confronted him, all he said was, "You're invading my privacy." He didn't apologize. Not even a sorry. No attempt to make things right. Instead, he blamed her for looking through his phone. He didn't even say, "Let's talk about this." Not a single word of remorse. Not a word of regret. He had betrayed her trust. And all he could say was that he needed someone to talk to. Christabel was left standing there, broken, in the kitchen, her heart shattered into pieces. Her mind raced with a million thoughts. How could this happen? How could the man she trusted with everything, the man she thought would always be there for her, be laughing at her with someone else? How could he turn her into a joke? How could he talk about her body, her insecurities, her struggles like they were nothing more than fodder for some conversation? But here's where it gets worse. Later that evening, he tried to fix it, not by apologizing, but by offering her a car. He said he would buy her a new car, as if that would make up for everything he had just done. As if a shiny new car could somehow heal the wounds he had inflicted on her. No apology. No, "I'm sorry," just a car. And Christabel? She didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to do. She was still living in that house with him, still cooking his meals, still doing his laundry, even though every part of her felt like she was drowning. Her mind was a mess. Her heart was broken. She started making plans in silence, in secret. She was saving money, gathering her documents. She couldn't leave right away. Not yet. Her children, her life, everything was still tied up in this marriage. But she knew one thing for sure. One day, she would leave. She would walk away, never looking back. But here's the part that really gets to her. Every time she looked at herself in the mirror, she couldn't see the woman she once was. She saw the person he had made her feel like. She felt small, insignificant, invisible. And yet, her mother kept telling her to stay for the kids, stay for the family, stay for the life they had built. But Christabel couldn't stay. Not like this. Not when the person she had trusted most had stripped her dignity away, piece by piece, and tossed it to the wind. Christabel's dignity was lost in a group chat. She knew she would never get it back. The days following Christabel's discovery felt like they stretched on endlessly. Every time she woke up, it was as if she was stepping into someone else's life, someone else's skin. She didn't recognize the woman in the mirror anymore. Gone was the confident woman who once walked with purpose. In her place was a broken soul, stuck in a marriage that had turned into a prison of betrayal. Her heart ached constantly. The love she had once felt for her husband had started to fade, replaced by a cold emptiness. How could she still love someone who had humiliated her in front of another woman? How could she keep pretending everything was okay when her whole world had crumbled beneath her? Christabel spent her days going through the motions. She made breakfast for the kids. She helped them with their homework. She even kept up with her husband's laundry, all while feeling like a stranger in her own home. But inside, she was dying. The silence between her and her husband was suffocating. There were no more late-night conversations, no more shared dreams for the future. The love they had once shared felt like a distant memory, a ghost of what used to be. But every time Christabel thought about walking away, she would remember her children. She thought about how her mother had begged her to stay, telling her that a broken family would hurt them more than anything. She wasn't ready to tear their world apart. Not just yet. But every day, her heart sank deeper. Then came the day everything changed. It was an ordinary afternoon where nothing seemed out of place. Christabel was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee, when she heard her husband's voice from the living room. He was talking on the phone, laughing. That familiar laugh, the one that used to make her smile. But today, it was different. Today, that laugh made her blood run cold. She knew something was wrong, but she couldn't bring herself to go into the living room and confront him again. It was getting harder to breathe in that house. Everything felt off. Suddenly, she heard him mention her name. Christabel, he said, as if it was nothing, like it didn't matter. And then he laughed again. That was the breaking point. Christabel stood up from the table, her heart pounding in her chest. Her hands were shaking as she grabbed her phone and called her best friend. She needed someone to talk to, someone who would listen and tell her what to do. Her best friend picked up after the first ring. Christabel? What's going on? The floodgates opened. Christabel poured everything out. The pain, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the humiliation. She told her friend about the messages, about the photos, about the way her husband had treated her like an object to be laughed at. I can't do this anymore, Christabel cried. I don't know who I am anymore. I feel so small. I feel invisible. Her friend was silent for a moment before replying, Christabel, you are not invisible. You are not small. You are a strong, amazing woman. Don't let him take that from you. You deserve so much more than this. Christabel's heart twisted in her chest as she listened to her friend's words. The reality of her situation hit her like a punch to the gut. She couldn't keep living this lie. She couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when her whole world was falling apart. But what about the kids? Christabel whispered, the question that had been haunting her for days. What do I do with them? I can't just walk away from them. Her friend was firm. Your kids need you to be happy, Christabel. They need to see you strong. They need to see you respected. You can't stay in this marriage just for them. It's not healthy for any of you. And that was it. That was the moment Christabel knew what she had to do. She took a deep breath, wiped the tears from her eyes, and made a decision. She would leave. She didn't know exactly how she would do it yet. She knew one thing for sure. She couldn't keep living this way. She couldn't let her children grow up thinking this was what love looked like. She couldn't keep allowing herself to be disrespected, humiliated, and broken. That evening, when her husband came home, Christabel knew it would be the moment she would take control of her life again. He walked into the house, looking distracted, as usual. Hey babe, I was thinking about getting that new car for you like I promised. Christabel didn't respond. Instead, she stood there, looking at him with a calm that scared even her. I'm done, she said, her voice unwavering. I've packed my things, and I'm getting out. You humiliated me, lied to me, and treated me like I'm nothing. I can't do this anymore. The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, Christabel saw her husband's face without the mask he had worn for so long. He was speechless, but Christabel didn't care anymore. Her heart was still broken, but she was no longer the woman who had been ashamed of her feelings. She had finally found the courage to stand up for herself. And as she packed her things, she felt a strange sense of relief. It was like a weight was lifting off her chest, even as her heart shattered in the process. She knew that leaving was the hardest thing she would ever do. It was also the most important. She had to rebuild herself. She had to find her worth again. But as she stood there in front of her husband, watching him fumble for words, she realized there was something else she had to do. It wasn't enough to just leave him. She needed to make a statement. She needed him to understand the depth of what he had lost. She turned to her children, who were standing quietly in the hallway, looking confused but trusting their mother. They had seen the tension, the distance between her and their father. They had sensed that something wasn't right, but they didn't understand the full picture. Christabel knelt down, took their little little hands in hers and whispered softly, "I'll always be with you, no matter what happens." And then, in a calm but firm voice, she said to her husband, "You wanted to stay with the kids, right? Take care of them. Now's your chance." She turned to her children, looking them in the eye. "I'll be back for you, but for now, you'll be with him." Christabel walked past her husband, leaving him standing in stunned silence, his mouth slightly agape. The truth of what had just happened hit him like a freight train. For years, he had assumed Christabel would never leave, that the children would always be the glue that kept them together. But as she walked out, she had done the unthinkable. She had left the kids in his hands, knowing he would have to step up and be a father. His world was crashing down. The realization struck him like a punch to the gut. He thought she would never walk away. He had been too comfortable, too certain that she was the one who would always hold everything together. He had underestimated her. And now, as he looked at their children, their innocent eyes staring up at him, overwhelmed by a deep sense of dread. This was not what he had expected. He wasn't ready for this. He'd always relied on Christabel to be the one to care for the children, to handle everything in their home. Now, with her gone, he was faced with the stark reality that he had to feed them, clothe them, and keep them safe. He had to be a father in every sense of the word, and it terrified him. He called out to her as she stepped toward the door, his voice cracking with disbelief. "Christabel, please, don't do this! Don't leave the kids with me! I can't!" But she didn't turn back. She didn't flinch. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew that leaving him with the children was the final wake-up call he needed to understand the gravity of what he had done. He had taken everything from her dignity, her trust, her love. Now he would have to face the consequences. Her heart ached as she walked out the door, but she didn't look back. Not even for a second. She knew that she was doing the right thing, even if it broke her heart. She was reclaiming her life. She was taking back her self-worth. As Christabel drove away from the house, the weight on her shoulders seemed a little lighter. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was walking towards something better, something that didn't include the man who had betrayed her, something that was just for her. Back inside the house, her husband stood frozen. The reality of what had just happened began to sink in. His mind raced with panic. What was he going to do now? He had always relied on Christabel to be the stable one who held the family together. Without her, everything felt like it was falling apart. The children stared at him with wide eyes. They were confused, unsure of what was happening. They had never seen their mother leave like this. They had never seen her walk away from their father. The silence between them was deafening. He stumbled toward the kitchen, trying to find something to occupy his mind. He grabbed the cereal box and poured it into bowls, his hands shaking. How was he going to do this? How was he going to take care of them when he could barely take care of himself? As he placed the bowls of cereal in front of the kids, they sat there in silence. They didn't know how to ask the questions that were bubbling up inside them. They didn't know how to express the confusion, the fear, the sense of abandonment they felt. And he didn't know how to answer them. He didn't know what to say. He looked at them, his heart sinking. For the first time, he saw them not as children he could manage, but as people who needed him. The weight of responsibility felt crushing. The house, once filled with the noise of family life, now eerily quiet. His world had turned upside down. He had never imagined this day would come. He had never imagined Christabel would leave him, let alone leave him alone with the kids. And now, as he sat there, staring at the empty space where she had stood just moments ago, he realized something that shook him to his core. He had taken her for granted. The thought of losing her, never having her in his life again, hit him harder than he had anticipated. But it was too late. Christabel had made up her mind. And now, he was the one left to pick up the pieces of a life he had torn apart. He picked up the phone, ready to call her, ready to beg her to come back. But as he glanced at the screen, he saw the messages he had sent to that other woman. The cruel words, the betrayal, the mockery of his wife. And in that moment, he knew there was no going back. He couldn't undo what he had done. And Christabel wasn't coming back. The guilt and shame he felt in that moment were unbearable. He had lost her. He had lost everything. As the hours passed, he paced the house, trying to think of something, anything that could make this right. But there was nothing. No apology, no gesture, no car, no excuse could undo the damage he had caused. And for the first time, he understood something he had never truly grasped before. Christabel had always been the strong one. She had held everything together. And now she was gone. And all he had left were the empty rooms and the broken pieces of his own heart. In the silence of the house, the realization was clear. He had lost her forever. Christabel had walked away. She had made the hardest decision of her life. And in that moment, she knew she had done the right thing. She had taken her first step toward healing. And as she looked out of the window at the road ahead, she knew that the future was hers to create. She was no longer a shadow. She was Christabel, strong, free, and ready to rebuild. Christabel had left. She had walked out the door, taking her life back, leaving the house silent and empty. She was gone, and with her husband's control over everything. Now he was stuck with the kids, stuck with the mess he had made. He stood in the kitchen, staring at the cereal bowls in front of the children. They had barely touched it, still unsure of what was going on. Their faces blank with confusion. He could see the uncertainty in their eyes. How could he explain this? How could he explain to them that their mother wasn't coming back anytime soon? He needed help. He had no idea how to take care of them, how to manage their lives, their needs, all the things Christabel had handled with ease. He was clueless. The first thing he tried was to call work. He figured he could take the day off, but that wasn't an option. His boss wouldn't understand. His mind was racing. He couldn't leave the kids alone, but he also couldn't just skip work forever. How could he balance everything? Then, in a moment of desperation, he grabbed his phone. He started texting all his female friends. He knew they weren't his wife, but maybe they could help. They had kids too. Surely they'd understand. He started sending out the messages hoping for anyone to respond, but no one did. The first message he sent was to Karen. She was a stay-at-home mum. She had always been so kind to the kids. Surely she would help. He texted, "Hey Karen, Christabel's not here. I'm in a bit of a bind. I need help with the kids. Could you come over? I can't manage everything on my own right now." He waited for a response and waited, but it never came. Frustrated, he tried again. He reached out to Janet, his old friend from work. She always seemed to have time for him, always ready to lend a hand. He sent another message. "Janet, I know this is last minute, but I really need some help. Can you come over and watch the kids for a bit? I have to work, and I'm feeling overwhelmed." Still no reply. Next, he called Maria, a close friend from his social circle, someone who had always been there for him in the past. "Maria, please, I don't know what to do. Christabel left. I'm stuck here with the kids. Can you please come help me? I just need a few hours to myself." The phone rang. It went straight to voicemail. Each failed attempt to reach someone made the situation feel more impossible. He felt trapped. His calls to others went unanswered. His texts left unread. He couldn't believe this was happening to him. Minutes stretched into hours as he walked aimlessly around the house, unable to focus on anything. The kids were still sitting at the table, poking at their food. His oldest, a little girl, looked up at him with a question in her eyes, but he couldn't answer it. What could he say? How could he explain any of this to them? It was only then that it hit him. He hadn't just lost Christabel. He had lost the stability she had brought to their family. She had always been the one who held everything together. The meals, the school runs, the bedtime routines, the bills, everything. She had been the one who cared for their children in a way he never had to. Now, he had no idea how to manage it. He thought back to his conversation with Christabel before she left. The words she had spoken, the look in her eyes. He had always taken her for granted. He had never truly seen how much she did, how hard she worked to keep everything running smoothly. He had just expected her to always be there, always keep things in order. Now he was realizing that her leaving had left a huge hole in their lives, a hole that he wasn't prepared to fill. Finally, after another fruitless attempt to contact his friends, he called his mother. He didn't want to. He didn't want to admit how bad things had gotten, but there was no other choice. He needed help. "Mom," he said, his voice heavy. "I'm really in a bind here. Christabel's gone and I don't know what to do. The kids, they need me. And I need help." His mother sighed on the other end of the line. "I told you, you should have taken care of your marriage. Look where you are. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You need to step up. Your kids are your responsibility." Her words cut through him like a sharp knife. He knew she was right. He hadn't stepped up when he should have. He hadn't been the husband or father he needed to be. And now he was facing the consequences. With a heavy heart, he hung up the phone. His head was spinning, and all he could hear was the silence around him. The house felt suffocating. He walked over to the kids and sat down beside them. "Hey guys," he said, forcing a smile. "We're going to figure this out, okay? We just need to take it one step at a time. I'll make sure you're okay." But deep down, he wasn't sure if he believed that. How could he? He wasn't prepared for this. He wasn't ready for the responsibility. Christabel had always been the one who knew what to do, knew how to handle everything. And now she was gone. As the hours went by, the reality of it all started to settle in. He was alone with the kids. Alone in a way he'd never been before. He couldn't go to work. He couldn't find anyone to help. And all he could do was try to keep things together. Even though he didn't know how. The weight of his own failures was crushing. He had thought he could rely on everyone else. Now he was realizing that the person he could truly rely on was himself. And maybe, just maybe, that was the hardest lesson of all. The next few days were a blur of emotions for Christabel's husband. Desperation had begun to sink in as he realized the magnitude of his mistakes. He had never anticipated this. He never thought she would walk away, let alone leave him with the children. Every morning, the weight of his failure hit him all over again. He watched the kids struggle, feeling their confusion and sadness. They were asking questions, wanting to know when Mom was coming back. Why things had changed. He didn't have answers, just hollow excuses and feeble attempts to make things feel normal. But nothing felt normal. His world was falling apart. In a fit of panic, he called Christabel. He dialed her number over and over, the call ringing each time. After what seemed like an eternity, she picked up. "Christabel," his voice cracked. "Please, I'm sorry. I know I've messed up. I know I can't undo what I've done. But please come back. I'll do whatever it takes. Just come back. The kids need you." There was silence on the other end of the line before Christabel responded, her voice calm but firm. "I didn't come to your house with any kids, and I'm not leaving with any kids either," she said, each word deliberate and measured. "When I'm ready, I will come for them. But not now. Right now, I need to focus on myself. I need to heal." Her words hit him like a cold slap. He had expected her to come back, to pick up the pieces, to come back and fix everything. But it was clear now that she wasn't going to do that. Not for him. Not for the kids. "I can't just leave them with you," he stammered. "I need help. You can't just abandon us like this." "You abandoned me long before I left," she replied, her voice unshaken. "And I'm not abandoning the kids. I'm just not coming back yet. I have to find myself again before I can give them the love they deserve. I've done everything for so long without taking care of myself. Now it's time to focus on me." She didn't wait for him to respond before she hung up. A decision had been made. She wasn't coming back. Not yet. In the following days, he called everyone he knew. Friends, family, even Collegesto. Begged Christabel to come back. He couldn't believe what was happening. He couldn't believe that his life, his family, could be slipping through his fingers like this. Yet, with each phone call, each desperate plea, Christabel remained firm. She wouldn't be swayed. She wasn't ready. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but it was the truth. She had taken control of her life. And now, she was the one with the power to make the choices. She wasn't going to be manipulated or forced into a decision. She would come back when she was ready. If I were Christabel, I would have left the house too. I wouldn't have been able to stay in a marriage where I was disrespected, mocked, and taken for granted. The betrayal, the hurt, and the humiliation would have been too much to bear. I would have had to leave, not just for my own peace of mind, but for my self-worth. As for the kids, I would have left them with their father. I would have done so not because I didn't love them, but because I needed time to heal, to gather my strength, and to remember who I was outside of being a wife and a mother. It would be incredibly difficult. But I would trust that their father could step up, even though he had never really done so before. It would be a wake-up call for him. And for me, it would be a chance to reclaim my life. If I were Christabel, I would not have returned for the kids immediately. It would be hard to leave them. I would need time to focus on myself, to find the strength to deal with everything that had happened. I couldn't just fall back into the same routine of trying to fix everything for everyone else, losing myself in the process. I needed to rebuild myself first, to be strong, so I could be the mother they deserved. When the time came, I would return for them, not to fix things with my husband, but to be there for them as a strong person. I would make sure they knew I loved them, that I was doing everything I could to give them a better life. A life where they would never have to witness their mother being belittled or disrespected. I would walk away from a marriage that was broken, not because I didn't love my children or my husband, but because I loved myself enough to make a change. I would leave with the intention to heal, to grow, and to give my kids a better future, one where they could see the strength in their mother's choices and the power of standing up for themselves. Christabel's journey was just beginning. It wouldn't be easy, and the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but she had taken the first step toward reclaiming her life. In the end, it wasn't just about leaving the house, it was about leaving behind a life of hurt, betrayal, and humiliation. It was about stepping into the light, even when everything felt dark. And when she was ready, she would return not as a shadow, but as a woman empowered to make a difference for herself and for her children. Thank you for watching. Please support us by subscribing, liking, and commenting.